The Irish government accidentally legalised a bunch of drugs, including ecstasy, ket and meth. This was 10 years ago in 2015, and the loophole was only opened for 24 hours. They rushed through legislation to close it. But until then, the sesh heads in Ireland enjoyed a 24-hour free-for-all where possession of these drugs were perfectly legal. And according to a report by the Beecham Peacock solicitors, one person who was actually getting done for 2.5 million euros worth of ecstasy actually got the charges dropped because of this loophole. But anyway, here is the weird and wonderful story of how the Irish government accidentally legalised a bunch of drugs. Just before I continue quickly, I am trying to get this channel off the ground, guys. I research drug culture and harm reduction. There's a lot of sort of science-backed information on this channel. Feel free to like and subscribe. It all started in 2011. That's when the Irish government were redrafting or making amendments to their 1977 Misuse of Drugs Act. The reason they were doing this was because of the so-called legal highs. This was when methadone or caffeinoids, MCAT, and all associated alphabet soup of research chemicals known in the press as legal highs were really popular. As a result, the laws in various countries were being updated to include these new drugs. Obviously, we ended up with a cat and mouse situation where, you know, one drug would be banned, and then the sort of underground chemists will just tweak it, put another sort of molecule on there, so to speak, and then it's legally an entirely new drug. Eventually, the governments sort of got past this by creating catch-all laws like the New Psychoactive Substances Act, which means that everything's banned, and then they just legalised alcohol, tobacco and caffeine and the legal drugs. But anyway, at the time, the Irish government were making amendments to sort of tackle the rise of methadone or MCAT, or in America known as bath salts. In 2011, regulations were passed by the government under Section 2, Chapter 2 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977, and that added methylcaffeinone and several other substances to the list of controlled substances under the Act. Now, there was a guy called ec𝓈ta𝓈y, and he was charged in 2012 with possession with intent to supply and appeared at Blanchardstown District Court. Sorry if I've butchered the pronunciation. So that was 1 year after these amendments to the Irish Misuse of Drugs Act. He appeared in court in April 2012 and he was charged. But prior to the amendment, remember, methylcaffeinone was perfectly legal to possess or even sell. It was being sold in a lot of head shops at the time. Now, his defense was that the amendments to the law, to Section 2, Paragraph 2 of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977 was unconstitutional. And he said that was the case because both houses of the Irish Parliament had not agreed to this amendment. He appeared in the High Court in May, but he lost his case. You know, they basically told him to do one. But he appealed to the Court of Appeal and he won. So at that moment, the amendments to the Act were irrelevant. As a result, Ireland had legalised a number of drugs that were involved in that process, including meth, ket and ecstasy and psilocybin, but not other drugs such as heroin, cocaine or bizarrely weed. So you had a situation where you could legally walk down through Ireland and whip out a meth pipe and crack on. But if you were smoking a joint, you would be sort of arrested. Locals dubbed it Yokegate. I've tried to look up what the Irish slang yoke means, and I just found so many different things. If someone can explain that in the comments, please do. After the court ruling, as people were open to legally use these drugs in public, ministers sort of rushed through emergency legislation. The quickest they could get it through was at midnight on the 11th. So it was the 11th, from the 10th to the 11th of March 2015, which will go down in Sesh Folklore, the day that these drugs were legal. According to this report by Beecham Peacock solicitors, there was one guy who actually had his investigation dropped or his charges dropped and he was accused of getting caught with 2.5 million euros worth of ecstasy, and it was all because of this. Obviously he's innocent. He was never proven guilty. He was an innocent guy, but if he was guilty, that he has to go down as one of the luckiest people.